Skull Nation, gather round because what I'm about to tell you will shake the very foundations of US Bank Stadium. The purple and gold faithful deserve to know the truth about what's brewing in Egan, and trust me, this roller coaster of emotions will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about our beloved Vikings' future. Picture this, a young quarterback carrying the weight of an entire franchise on his shoulders, a rookie linebacker making plays that have coaches doing double takes, and a veteran offensive lineman whose departure might signal something much bigger than anyone anticipated. These aren't just isolated incidents, Skull Nation, they're interconnected pieces of a puzzle that could either launch us into Super Bowl contention or leave us scratching our heads wondering what if. The whispers around TCO Performance Center are getting louder, and the stakes have never been higher. We're talking about decisions that could define the next decade of Vikings football, moves that could either vindicate our front office or expose the cracks in our championship aspirations. From the quarterback room to the linebacker core, from the offensive line to the coaching staff, everything is connected in ways that will blow your mind. But here's what's got me fired up. Skull Nation. The mainstream media isn't telling you the whole story. They're giving you fragments, pieces of a much larger narrative that reveals the true state of our franchise. Some of what you're about to discover will fill you with hope and excitement, while other revelations might keep you up at night, wondering if we're truly ready for what lies ahead. Smash that like button. If you're ready for the truth, drop a skull in the comments below and make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next will change how you view this entire organization. The first bombshell involves a young signal caller whose success will determine whether we're celebrating in February or planning for another rebuilding year. The weight of Skull Nation's championship dreams now rests squarely on the shoulders of J.J. McCarthy. And let me tell you, Vikings faithful, this isn't your typical rookie quarterback learning the ropes situation. This is do or die time for our entire franchise trajectory. Here's what the front office won't openly admit. McCarthy wasn't even considered a top-tier quarterback prospect in the 2024 draft class. While teams were salivating over Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May, our young gunslinger was clearly viewed as a tier below those elite prospects. Yet somehow, someway, the Vikings organization has decided to bet everything on his development, choosing not to pursue any established veteran quarterbacks this offseason. Talk about putting all your purple eggs in one basket, but here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. Skull Nation, the Vikings aren't just throwing McCarthy to the wolves and hoping for the best. They've constructed what might be the most quarterback-friendly environment in the entire NFL. We're talking about Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson, forming one of the league's most lethal receiving corps, complemented by a completely revamped offensive line anchored by Christian Darrisaw and Brian O'Neill. These aren't just good players. These are elite talents who can mask a young quarterback's weaknesses while amplifying his strengths. And then there's the secret weapon, Kevin O'Connell, the so-called quarterback whisperer, who's supposedly capable of transforming raw talent into franchise-caliber excellence. But here's the million-dollar question that's keeping me up at night. Is O'Connell's reputation as a QB developer actually backed up by cold, hard statistics, or are we buying into hype and hope? The data tells a complex story. Skull Nation. When you analyze the passer ratings of the 6 primary starting quarterbacks who've worked under O'Connell, as either an offensive coordinator or head coach, there's a slight statistical boost of about 4.3 points in their passer rating during their time with KOC. That sounds promising, right? But here's the kicker. This improvement isn't statistically significant, meaning it could just be random variation rather than coaching brilliance. Look at Matt Stafford's journey as the perfect example. He had a phenomenal 2021 season under O'Connell with the Rams. But was that because of coaching genius, or because he finally escaped the dysfunction of Detroit and had a healthy season? The confounding factors make it nearly impossible to isolate O'Connell's true impact, leaving us with more questions than answers about McCarthy's development potential. But here's what's got me cautiously optimistic. Skull Nation. Even if O'Connell's quarterback whisperer reputation is somewhat inflated, a 4.3-point boost in passer rating could be the difference between mediocrity and competence for a young quarterback. It won't turn a dud into Lamar Jackson, but it might just provide enough of an edge to keep our championship window cracked open while McCarthy finds his footing in this league. The truth is, Vikings faithful, McCarthy's success or failure will ultimately come down to his own talent, work ethic, and mental fortitude. The organization has surrounded him with every possible advantage, but at the end of the day, he's got to make the throws, read the defenses, and prove he belongs in the same conversation as those quarterbacks who were drafted ahead of him. But that's just the beginning of our story, Skull Nation. Because while everyone's focused on our quarterback situation, something absolutely incredible is happening in our linebacker room that could change everything. While Skull Nation has been obsessing over McCarthy's development, a sixth-round draft pick has been quietly making plays that have coaches and scouts doing literal double takes at TCO Performance Center. And this underdog story might just be the spark that ignites our entire defense. Meet Kobe King, the 201st overall pick out of Penn State, who arrived in Minnesota with zero fanfare and a reputation as nothing more than a physical run-stopping linebacker with questionable coverage skills. Conventional wisdom suggested he'd be lucky to make the practice squad, let alone contribute meaningfully to a playoff-contending roster. But sometimes, Skull Nation, conventional wisdom gets absolutely demolished by raw determination and football instincts. During rookie minicamp, while first-round pick Donovan Jackson was drawing predictable praise and third-rounder Ty Felton was showcasing his smooth route running, it was King who delivered the most jaw-dropping moment of the entire weekend. Picture this, a controlled team session where King perfectly reads a short pass in the hook/curl zone, intercepts it with surgical precision, and returns it for a pick six that left everyone in the building stunned into silence. This wasn't just athletic ability on display. Skull Nation. This was football IQ, anticipation, and the kind of instinctive playmaking that you simply cannot teach. In the controlled environment of rookie minicamp, where big plays are rare and turnovers are even rarer, King managed to create a highlight reel moment that immediately elevated his stock within the organization. But here's what really caught my attention. Vikings faithful. After making this spectacular play, King didn't celebrate or seek attention. Instead, he was spotted standing in a skin-tight purple long-sleeve tee after peeling off his white jersey with a black skull cap and silver chain around his neck, catching his breath but immediately pushing himself through extra conditioning sprints while other players retreated indoors. That's the kind of work ethic and dedication that turns late-round picks into impact players. King's mindset is absolutely refreshing in an era where young players often expect immediate gratification. Listen to his words. "I've been embracing the process, trusting in my building, my training. You know, it's a process, but it ain't been as rocky as people would expect. It's been a smooth process for me, really. My goal is to go out there, show my teammates and the club that they can trust me, that they can have confidence in me, and just, evolve my pass game effectiveness." That self-awareness and maturity are exactly what Brian Flores and the defensive coaching staff want to hear, especially from a player who knows he needs to improve in coverage, but isn't afraid to acknowledge those weaknesses while working to address them. At 6'2", 1 inch and 236 pounds, King brings more size than recent Vikings linebackers like Ivan Pace Jr., whose own underdog journey has become legendary among Skull Nation. The parallels are obvious. Both were overlooked prospects who used their chip-on-the-shoulder mentality to exceed expectations and carve out meaningful roles on this defense. Here's what makes King's situation even more intriguing. Skull Nation. The departure of veteran Kamu Grugier-Hill has created legitimate opportunities in the linebacker room. With Flores known for his creative personnel packages and hybrid defensive schemes, King's versatility and special teams potential could accelerate his path to regular playing time far faster than anyone anticipated. The competition will be fierce, especially with 51 players vying for attention during rookie minicamp. But King's combination of on-field production, relentless work ethic, and leadership qualities has already set him apart from the crowd. His interception wasn't just a moment of individual brilliance. It was a signal to the coaching staff that he can be trusted in critical situations when the lights are brightest. Of course, rookie minicamp is just the appetizer, Skull Nation. The real tests await in OTAs, training camp, and preseason games, where King will need to prove he can translate his early success against NFL veterans, who won't be as forgiving as rookie competition. But his performance has laid a foundation that has analysts already projecting him for a regular season roster spot. But while we're celebrating King's emergence and McCarthy's development, there's a departure that might reveal something much more significant about the direction of our franchise. Just when Cole Nation thought we had all the pieces figured out, veteran offensive tackle David Quesenberry has signed with the Los Angeles Rams, and this move might be the most telling indicator of where our franchise really stands in the grand scheme of NFL power dynamics. On the surface, losing a 35-year-old backup offensive lineman doesn't seem like earth-shattering news, but dig deeper, Skull Nation, and you'll discover this departure reveals crucial insights about our organizational philosophy, coaching connections, and competitive positioning that should have every Vikings fan paying close attention. Quesenberry spent the previous 2 seasons in purple and gold, serving as reliable depth behind our starting tackles, while learning under Kevin O'Connell's offensive system. Now he's reuniting with Sean McVay in Los Angeles, leveraging his familiarity with the Rams' blocking schemes and offensive concepts that O'Connell originally helped develop during his time as McVay's offensive coordinator. Here's what's fascinating about this move. Vikings faithful Quesenberry is joining a Rams offensive line room that's absolutely loaded with talent but completely uncertain about depth. Alaric Jackson and Rob Havenstein are locked in as starters, but behind them, you've got A.J. Arcuri, KT Leviston, Warren McClendon Jr., Trey Whittick, and now Quesenberry, all competing for just 2 backup positions. The Rams are clearly prioritizing experienced depth as they prepare for what could be Matthew Stafford's final championship window. They've got money invested in Jackson and Stafford, with extension decisions looming for Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, Tutu Atwell, and Kieran Williams. This is a franchise operating in win-now mode, and they view Quesenberry as a veteran presence who can maintain their offensive line standards if injuries strike. But here's what should concern Cole Nation. If Quesenberry was valuable enough for a Super Bowl contender like the Rams to prioritize signing him, why didn't we fight harder to retain his services? Are we comfortable with our offensive line depth? Or did we simply decide that his veteran presence wasn't worth the investment compared to developing younger talent? Stafford himself acknowledges the importance of offensive line continuity, especially when it comes to protecting Kieran Williams' explosive running ability. One of the reasons for Williams' success is his ability to operate behind various pieces on the offensive line. It will be up to Quesenberry to keep that success rate up. The interconnectedness of these 3 stories should be crystal clear now, Skull Nation. We're asking J.J. McCarthy to succeed behind an offensive line that just lost a veteran depth piece, while simultaneously hoping that late-round picks like Kobe King can immediately contribute at positions where experience typically matters most. We're betting on development, potential, and coaching brilliance, while our competitors are prioritizing proven veterans and established depth. This isn't necessarily a criticism of Vikings faithfulness, simply the reality of our current organizational philosophy. We're building for sustained success rather than mortgaging our future for immediate gratification. Kevin O'Connell has created a culture that prioritizes player development and maximizing potential, but that approach requires patience and carries inherent risks. Smash that like button. If you believe in our young core, drop a skull in the comments if you think we're building something special. And make sure you're subscribed, because this is just the beginning of what promises to be the most important season in recent Vikings history. The question that will define our entire 2025 campaign isn't whether we have enough talent, it's whether we have enough experience, depth, and veteran leadership to compete with franchises like the Rams, who are operating in full win-now mode. J.J. McCarthy, Kobe King, and the departure of David Quesenberry represent 3 different aspects of the same fundamental gamut. Youth, development, and coaching can overcome the advantages that come with experience and proven production. Skull Nation, we're about to find out if our faith in this process will be rewarded with a championship run, or if we'll be left wondering what might have been if we prioritized veteran stability over developmental potential. Either way, it's going to be one hell of a ride. What do you think, Vikings faithful? Are we building a dynasty or gambling with our championship window? Let me know in the comments below.